Priest Holmes was a juggernaut. Constantly doubted throughout his career, Holmes is a prime example of when preparation meets opportunity. Raised in a military household in San Antonio, Holmes credits his upbringing for instilling a strong work ethic in him. Originally going by his middle name Anthony, Holmes starred at John Marshall High School, rushing for over 2,000 yards and scoring 26 touchdowns as a senior, helping lead his team to their first state championship appearance. He would then take his talents to the University of Texas, where he would excel despite having to overcome numerous obstacles, including splitting time at running back and losing a year to a torn ACL, which buried him on the depth chart and opened the door for freshman and future Heisman Trophy winner Ricky Williams to emerge. But even in a largely secondary role, Holmes proved he could play, flashing his potential on multiple occasions, including the 1994 Sun Bowl, when he was named MVP after running for 161 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also managed to score 13 rushing touchdowns his senior year, despite only touching the ball 59 times. Heading into the 1997 draft, Holmes knew his limited playing time and injury history gave him long odds of being selected. It also didn't help that he ran a 4.7 second 40-yard dash and had a generally lackluster combine performance. Holmes' intuition would prove correct, and he would indeed go undrafted. While he had real and arguably more interest from other teams, Holmes thoughtfully signed with the Baltimore Ravens, where he saw a legitimate pathway to eventually carving out a role. At the time, the Ravens had Bam Morris, 35-year-old Ernest Biner, and fellow rookie Jay Graham, who was taken in the 3rd round, as their top running back options. The coaching staff didn't sugarcoat things, and let Holmes know that he would have to make the roster as a special teamer, and would be a reserve running back at best. He accepted the challenge, made the team, and spent his rookie season as the 4th-string running back. Going into year 2, both Morris and Biner departed, moving Holmes up the depth chart. However, it would only be one spot, as the Ravens signed veteran Eric Rhett and elevated Jay Graham. Holmes once again seemed poised to be stuck in a timeshare at best, until things changed in week 4, when he was promoted to starter and made the most of it, racking up 173 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. He ended up keeping the job and finished the season with a little over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. Holmes would be named the starter going into year 3. However, an early season knee injury limited him to 9 games, and he eventually lost his grip on the starting job. To make matters worse, the Ravens would use their 1st-round pick the following year to select future star Jamal Lewis, casting further doubt over Holmes' role with the team. While his contributions were largely overshadowed by Lewis, he still produced a solid 816 total yards along with 2 touchdowns, and helped a Ravens team that would go on to win the Super Bowl. An unrestricted free agent after the season, Holmes was eager to test the market and prove that he was a starting caliber running back who an offense could be built around. He also recognized that the Ravens were not designed for his strengths. They were built to have a back that could run in between the tackles behind Jonathan Ogden. Holmes was better suited on an offense that could utilize his receiving skills and find ways to get him to the 2nd level, where he did most of his damage. So he bet on himself and accepted a modest contract from the Kansas City Chiefs, where the head coach at the time, Dick Vermeil, promised him a chance at the starting job. Initially, the increased expectations led to Holmes getting inside his own head a bit, and his tenure got off to a less than ideal start. Struggling to pick up the offense through the first 2 games, he only managed to produce a combined 69 yards and no touchdowns on 19 touches. However, by week 3 he would settle in and had a breakout performance against Washington, taking 28 touches for 225 yards and 3 total touchdowns. He often credits fullback Tony Richardson, who led the team in rushing the previous year, for unselfishly lobbying for Holmes to be the team's primary ball carrier following his breakout. The coaches would listen, and the decision would pay off majorly for both Holmes and the Chiefs, as Priest would go on to lead the league in rushing that year with 1,555 yards, making him the first undrafted player since Joe Perry to accomplish this. He also had a career-best 62 receptions for 614 yards and 2 touchdowns, earning him his first of 3 consecutive first-team All-Pro and Pro Bowl selections. Still unsatisfied, Holmes took his game to new heights the following season, rushing for a career-best 1,615 yards and a league-leading 21 touchdowns. He also upped his receiving production, nabbing 70 passes for 672 yards and 3 touchdowns. Keep in mind, he achieved all this despite missing the last 2 games of the season with a hip injury. For his outstanding effort, Holmes would be named Offensive Player of the Year and would continue adding to his legacy the following season by rushing for 1,420 yards and breaking Marshall Faulk's record for total touchdowns in a season with 27, making him and Emmitt Smith as the only players in NFL history to have back-to-back seasons with 20-plus total touchdowns. He was well on his way to repeat this feat once again the following season, accumulating 15 touchdowns through his first 8 games. However, he would unfortunately suffer a knee injury in Week 9 against the Bucs, pulling the plug on his campaign. This would mark the beginning of the end, as Holmes would deal with a series of spinal injuries over the next 3 seasons, limiting him to 11 games, and eventually forcing him into retirement in 2007. Holmes had one of the most dominant 3-year stretches of any player in NFL history, and is the greatest undrafted running back ever in my opinion. In his 7 seasons as a Chief, he rushed for nearly 6,000 yards, caught 251 passes for nearly 2,400 yards, and scored 83 touchdowns, the most in franchise history. He had every reason to be discouraged along the way, and could have thrown in the towel at numerous points throughout his football journey, but he didn't, and instead used the chip on his shoulder to fuel him at every level. A Hall of Fame candidate multiple times, Holmes is yet to advance to the semifinalist stage. While he doesn't have longevity on his side, his dominance in championship season should keep him in the conversation. I want to thank you for watching, and I would love to hear about your thoughts on Priest Holmes and any other notable undrafted free agent.